Hey everyone, Jen Glantz here. Today I'm going to read you a little excerpt of my brand new chapter from my book called Finally the Bride. This chapter is called Be My Guest, and it's all about the stress and headache of making a wedding guest list that nobody ever talks about. I had a feeling that figuring out who you were going to invite to your wedding would be something of stress, even before I was engaged, but it didn't really hit me until I saw a list of names on my Excel spreadsheet and didn't know what to do. The chapter starts off with a true story of when I was working as a professional bridesmaid, a story of wedding crashers in the most unique kind of way. I'm going to read you a little bit of this chapter. If you don't know already, I have been writing Finally the Bride over the last couple of months, releasing a new chapter every single month. It's quite the unique way to write the book, but I always feel like when we read books, we don't always read them all at once. So by writing it this way, I'm giving people a way of getting a fresh new chapter straight to their inbox every single month so that they can read it in a more digestible way. But also I'm writing the book in real time. Everything in this book I'm currently living through right now on a monthly basis. Plus, the added spin of this book is that for the last couple of months, millions of strangers all over the world have been voting on my wedding. And their votes have impacted not only our wedding journey pre-pandemic and now during the pandemic, but it's also influenced how these chapters are formed and they're written. Throughout the chapters, I always have polls that the voters have voted on that have impacted my decisions. And in this chapter, you will eventually see that some of the polls that impacted this chapter were around who I should invite and who I should leave off the guest list. I left that decision to the strangers of the world, and if you finish the chapter, you will see what happened. But I'm going to kick this off by reading just a little bit of this chapter called Be My Guest. If you want to read the full chapter, finallythebride.com/shop is where you can have access to this book. Remember, once you buy access to it, you'll get a new chapter every single month. It is the book that keeps on giving. Let's do this. It doesn't matter who you invite to your wedding. People you don't invite will show up anyway, if they want to be there. A save-the-date postcard, formal invitation, or RSVP card not arriving in their mailbox won't stop that. Annette warns me that I might have to call security, or at least that's what I think she says. But when I ask her what number I should put in my phone so when I'm ready for backup, I can just press the speed dial button, she corrects me, fast. Oh no, Jen, she grabs my shoulder. You are security. Annette slaps a stack of paper and a highlighter into my palms and tells me only the names written down are allowed in. Everyone else has to be shown the exit door. But wait, I yell after her as she walks back to the bridal suite. What if they don't listen? What if they came all the way here from New Jersey? What if they cry? Only the list, Jen. The problem with Annette's wedding isn't that she was wishy-washy with who she wanted to invite. It was that other people in her life had a guest list of their own. Annette and her fiance invited 75 people, but her mom went ahead and printed a set of invitations and sent them to an unapproved list of 50 people. Her mother-in-law sent a paperless post to her own unapproved list of 65 people. By the time Annette found out, the wedding was almost 2 weeks away. Fights, long phone calls, and enough tears to almost have irreversible water damage on her iPhone weren't enough to stop all the uninvited guests from booking flights, hotel rooms, and passing on the information that they'd like chicken and not fish. But today is Annette's wedding day, and this isn't her problem anymore. It's mine. I take my spot at a podium feet away from the reception hall with a sacred guest list in hand. I feel like a bouncer from Studio 54, except I am not picking and choosing who is allowed in based on bribes, outfit choices, or the stinging sounds of begs and pleas. I am only letting in the people the bride and groom want here. I'm sorry, I say to a group of 10 who arrive together. None of you are on the guest list. I can't let you into the wedding. Who do you think you are, a guy with a skinny bow tie belts out? I'm the groom's second cousin. My family is inside and we're going in. He signals to the group to follow him and starts to walk around me, straight towards the party door. No, stop. You can't go in there. I have one job right now as the bride's hired bridesmaid and I can't fail at it. The bride is paying me enough to cover my rent for the month. If her wedding is flooded with the people she told me not to let in, there goes my cash and my reputation as the person who can handle all of the dirty work of a wedding. I run to the door and shield it by making an X shape with my body. No, you're not going in there. The second cousin, who needs to be twice removed from this party, tries to get around me. He tries to push the door open, but I won't move. As soon as the group backs away to call a family member already inside, I go back to my spot at the podium, straighten out my dress, and take a deep breath. Next, I say, as if this is a line at the DMV. Sorry, you're not on the list either. Nope, you were not invited by the bride and the groom. Okay, I understand this is a direct order from the couple getting married. You can't go inside. The bride and groom can't come to the podium right now. An after party, I have no idea what the guest looks like for that. No, the open bar is closed to people not on this main guest list. Sure, you can call the cops, but I don't think they will care about a person trying to cash a wedding reporting that they aren't allowed in. Call security? You're looking at security. Ma'am, please step away from the podium. I am exhausted by the end of the night. I have drinks poured on me, a collection of spit sticking to my forehead from people yelling so close to my face, and I receive a lot of verbal threats. By the time the wedding officially starts, nobody had been let inside that isn't supposed to be there. As I work more and more weddings as a bridesmaid for hire, I take on many roles just like this one. I have to take on the role of being a bodyguard at many weddings, scanning the room and making sure uninvited friends, ex-family members, or even ex-lovers are stopped at the front door before they make their grand entrance. At almost every wedding I work, I'm handed a file of photos of a person they want me to watch out for because that is the person they have a feeling will show up, even though their name is never on the guest list. About 75% of the time, they're right. That person rolls up, parks their car, and tries to enter the party. I once saved a wedding by catching a sneaky ex-girlfriend as she pulled up to the valet. I opened her car door and told her it was a better idea for her to drive home than interrupting the wedding. She sighed, buckled her seatbelt, and turned the car around. What was she there to do? Poison the groom's drink, interrupt the first dance with a monologue about how awful the groom was to her? Pour red wine on the bride's dress? Luckily, we'll never know. I had thought I had already known the #1 lesson of putting together a wedding guest list, but I actually learned through all of my experience on the job the very opposite to be true. It's not about carefully selecting who you want to invite. It's about preparing to deal with the wedding crashers from your deep past who pick this day to finally show up and creep back into your life. You get a glimpse of what that's like when you get engaged. People crawl out from all the different wooded areas of your life, congratulating you and sharing their excitement for the big day. I got so many text messages that said something like, "I can't wait to celebrate with you and Andrew." "It's Adam," I wanted to text back, but instead I mostly sent a heart emoji followed by a series of exclamation points. It was my way of denying the inevitable. Figuring out how to make a guest list that doesn't give me anxiety, juxtaposed with how to let down all of these people who assume they'll be reuniting with me on the dance floor after so many years. A lot of these messages came from people I hadn't spoken to in such a long time. People I hadn't hugged hello in far too long, even though they didn't live more than a few blocks away. And people who I wish had picked up the phone and called, but years went by and I never heard their voice. From them makes me feel like this off-balance concoction of elated and deflated. Why do people wait for big news to say hello? Why do they think of weddings as a time to rekindle relationships? What about all of the time in between? It is in that moment, looking through texts and social media messages, that I realize deciding who will be front row at this wedding and who will watch from the cheap seats, also known as viewing it on a photo album on Facebook or a wedding montage video cut up on Instagram, will be one of the most grueling decisions I will ever have to make, which is why I don't make it. All right, that is part 1 of this chapter. The chapter goes on to talk about how I decided who was on my guest list, which was a very incredibly odd decision to make, and I did it in a very weird way. But the book is available right now, chapter by chapter. There's already about 9 chapters released. So if you get the book, finallythebride.com/shop, it's only $10 for access, lifetime access, and you will have access every single month. New chapters are released on the 15th of the month. So grab access right now. You'll have access to all of the old chapters. And then tomorrow on Saturday, you'll have access to see how this chapter ends. Thank you all so much for your support. And thank you for just listening to my words as a writer. This has been an incredible experience to write a book like this. This is the first time I've ever written a book, released chapter by chapter, but it has been the most incredible experience living through this and writing about this